Hello, hello. Hope you guys doing fantastic today. The full build guide for Will Smith is finally there. I think I covered pretty much everything I wanted for the build so far. With the videos I've been, spamming in the past week and a half. So it's time for the full build guide. This video is going to include everything, all put together and more. Itemization, passive tree, the early game, also a little bit of that I'm going to touch. Skill gems, stuff like that. Everything is going to be in there. So I think without further ado, we're just going to jump into it. Going to do a quick showcase. Let's just do this DK map. This is going to be Breach and Delirium. This is for the most part what I've been farming. But yeah, to those that do not know, Will Smith is a character that is a very all-around, I think very strong all-around build. It combines very good amount of tankiness, very good damage, good clear, in my opinion. You know, if you want to compare it to Amazon, of course, it's not going to be the level of Lightning Spear when it comes to clear, but it has very good damage, very good tankiness. Amazing build against Pinnacle bosses. Probably one of the strongest builds I played against Pinnacle bosses, because Pinnacle bosses, with the one small exception of Arbiter of Ash, they just don't do anything. Arbiter of Ash can kill you with like one-shot ability, but if you're good at dodging it, honestly, it's not that hard to dodge, in my opinion, after you practice a little bit. There isn't like a single boss that can kill you, really. Even the monkey boss with the slam doesn't kill this build in one hit. It's going to deal like, I don't know, 2,000, maybe 3,000 damage sometimes, right? So you can still tank that because we're invested into all the defenses in the game. So we have 90 all resistances because, you know, we're a smith, so I don't think there's a single build, there's a single smith build that doesn't utilize the maximum resistance nodes. That would be absolutely crazy. That's the main reason why we picked that ascendancy. But we have 90 all res, we have very high armor. On top of that, we have mini cloak of flames, also thanks to ascendancy. We have 75% chaos resistance. We have very high regeneration. We have a decent amount of life, I would say, for the patch 0.2. You know, in the past we could get much more, but there are many nerfs to in many different places. And to my surprise, life got hit also. So life is not as as good as it was before. I know that energy shield is also much weaker, but one thing I did not expect is that they're gonna hit life, but they did. Delirium is over. I wanted to show like a little bit more layers of Delirium, but it's fine. So very strong defensively, very strong offensively, because our ascendancy is fully focused. Some people confused, like, oh, oh, your ascendancy is fully defense, like no damage at all. It's like you're probably going to be doing no damage. And many things, often how people build characters in Path of Exile, generally speaking, is like you take into consideration like the opportunity cost. And the fact that the entire ascendancy is you know, balanced around defense, you can focus on offense way more in other places, right? So it's not necessarily like a fully defensive ascendancy is going to be doing no damage. That's not how it works at all. If you're talking about a balanced character, if you're talking full glass cannon, if you want to die in one hit, sure, of course. But you know, I don't like to build characters like that. I always need to build some sort of defense because I really don't like glass cannon characters. Dying in one hit is definitely not something I enjoy, and I'm most likely never gonna make a character like that. But yeah, we can we can solve damage in many other places. Like for example, dual wielding. We're dual wielding two-handed maces, which gives us absolutely stupid amount of damage. Because if you saw my video from like, I don't know, a week ago explaining dual wielding, dual wielding gives you tons of damage. The way the game is balanced right now, so, some would say a lack of balance, because dual wielding in some cases can give you triple damage, if not more, in special occasions, depending on how hard your main skill scales with gem levels. So we have dual wielding. On top of that, we're not investing that many points into passive skill tree, since we don't need to, because ascendancy gives us a lot of defense. So yeah, like we don't need to worry about that. So like many, and I mean many points, just go into damage. So at the end of the day, we have a character that hits for, I want to say, I've been hitting Zesht for the highest difficulty Zesht for about 3.5 million perfect strike hits, and that's not including the ignite. You know, because you're gonna hit, the ignite will keep on ticking before you can hit with perfect strike again, so that will also add up some damage. So I can with confidence say that the pinnacle bosses, the highest difficulty tier pinnacle bosses, die in about 8 to 9 hits. The best part about this is that you can increase this number by a lot if you want, by sacrificing a little bit of defense. So we're gonna, of course, we're gonna get to it. But here is the boss. Many people, and I mean many, I had so many questions like that. People were asking, how do you utilize the weapon swap? How do you, like, you don't see a second weapon set? That is exactly what I do. Just swap the weapon set to set number 2, and boom, enjoy the absolutely massive amount of additional damage. One tip against bosses, and generally speaking, wait until you have 10 rage, and then use Infernal Cry. This way your attack is going to be empowered. Fortunately, the boss ran away. But you know what? I'm just going to spoiler alert. I can absolutely destroy this boss with single perfect strike. But since my leap strike is so strong, leap slam, excuse me, is that I can just literally leap on the boss and he dies also. With perfect strike, I pretty much kill every single boss in the game in one hit. So the map boss, right? There's like exceptions. There was a boss with like 7 million life once, because it had map modifiers, so I killed him in 2 perfect strikes instead. But yeah, the damage, the clear is decent. The damage against bosses is very high. The pinnacle bosses just literally don't do anything to this build. Very good all-around build, I have to say. Like when it comes to how well balanced this is, I would say that this build is probably even better than the Molten Titan from the previous league. Which I thought was like, strong defense, very strong offense. Like for the current economy that we have, let's just put it this way, this build is very strong in every aspect. It's not too slow because we fix speed by giving by putting greater runes of alacrity in 4 sockets, which means that our speed is much faster. And it's like it doesn't feel clunky at all. You can increase the speed even further by getting, for example, attack speed in your gloves. We're gonna get to that, but yeah, build I'm very happy with it. It's not going to be easy to beat this for warriors, generally speaking, because it's just so strong. Even Simulacrum I've done so far 6 out of 8 points, and I didn't fail a single time. I died once in one of the Simulacrums, but you still have attempts, right? So if you want to do 8 out of 8 Simulacrum points with this build, you absolutely can. You're not gonna struggle. You're really not gonna struggle that much. So just great, right? Great all around. Let's jump into it. I think the first thing I'm going to shortly talk about is the campaign and how the progression in the campaign is going to look like. So first of all, let's talk about skills. So when it comes to skills, it's very simple. The progression in campaign, which you can read in my Mobalytics guide, but the progression in the campaign is very simple. First, at the very first levels, you start using Rolling Slam, prime enemies for stun with Rolling Slam, and then explode them with Bone Shatter. These are the 2 skills you're going to be using. That's it. That's all there is to it. After that, also make sure to put the first time you can put I think the Brink support is tier 2 support. So the first time you're going to get a tier 2 support gem, put Brink in whatever ability you're using to stun, to prime enemies for stun. Because with Brink, that means that you can't fully stun enemies. It's going to stop at 99% or something, which means that you will always be able to detonate enemies with Bone Shatter, right? So that's very useful. So once you get to level, I believe, skill gem level, what was that, 7 or 5, something like that, I think it's 5, you get Leap Slam, and you just stop using Rolling Slam, and you just start using Leap Slam, and jumping on top of enemies, and priming them for stun with Leap Slam instead. So same story, you Leap Slam into enemies, you explode them with Bone Shatter. And then you do that. I was doing that for the entire campaign, the entirety of the campaign. Campaign looked very smooth. I believe, like in comparison to last patch when we started playing the game, last patch at the start of early access, right? With my Molten Titan build, I died like 17 times during campaign, and at the time that I thought that was a lot. And then I realized that other people were like dying hundreds of times. So then I realized that 17 times is not that bad. With this character, I died like 7 times, and 3 or 4 of them were because it's just I didn't care. I'm playing softcore, right? So I was just going deep, right? If I was playing safe, I could have. It's a great hardcore character, by the way. So absolutely hardcore viable. I don't know about SSF viable. It is also because the items that you use, like there's like no unique items except for this one, and this one can be replaced with other options. So yeah. Yeah, so you keep on using Leap Slam into Bone Shatter all the time, and then late game, once you swap to, it is also going to be in my guide, once you swap to Giant's Blood and two-handed weapons, you just drop Bone Shatter forever, and you start using Leap Slam, like, just forever at this point, always. Because with Leap Slam, you will be just doing so much damage with two-handed weapons that you just don't need to care about exploding people with Bone Shatter anymore. And that's how the progression for this build looked like for me, and it worked very, very nicely. Now, when it comes to passive skill tree, I have over here, I'm going to talk about early game progression of the passive skill tree. And early game progression is very nice, very simple, and you pretty much never have to respec. So this is going to be for the campaign, right? And like maybe shortly outside of campaign. So during campaign, you start here, you get this melee damage in the beginning. You get brutal, these damage nodes here. Area is important because with scaling area is going to make you feel your Bone Shatter is going to feel much better. So generally speaking, area for warriors is like, it goes like bread and butter. It's really important, right? Sturdy metal for armor. Armor is pretty important during campaign, but I'm going to get to that once we get to itemization. Relentless, then we're going area here, then we're just going this way. We're getting some one-handed because this is, remember, this is the campaign tree. In the campaign, before Giant's Blood, you're supposed to be using one-handed weapons. It's going to feel way more smooth, and Perfect Strike's going to be much faster. Use Aftershocks because at this point we still Aftershock. Blade Catcher, Strength for life, then Stun Threshold. These nodes are pretty important because that they will help you tremendously with stunts. Resolute Technique, area and area damage, basic stuff. Attack speed, reduce attack speed, but with huge damage. I think these are pretty reasonable to use when you're using one-handers because you're not going to feel that reduced attack speed that much, so it's fine. Strength here with brute strength. I still think that this notable should be buffed because it's too weak. But we're stacking strength. We're gonna use it anyway. Unnatural resilience, and then we're going this way for more area and area damage and smoke inhalation for some fire penetration. At this point, it's not going to be useful for Leap Slam at all, but these 2 points are pretty damn useful for Perfect Strike. Because Perfect Strike by default converts 80% to fire. So you're going to feel your single target damage with Perfect Strikes increase with these 2 nodes, right? At this point. And first of all, at this point, it's not a big deal to really, it's not really a big deal to invest 2 points there. Then for rage generation, at this point in the game, I recommend these points because they also give armor, and you have rage, full rage pretty much all the time. So, occasionally you're going to get hit. You're going to get 11 rage when you get hit, so that's nice. And at this point, level 50, 60, something like that, you want to allocate blood magic when the mana costs start to get annoying, because when you have 2,000 life and like 300 mana, then when the mana cost will get annoying, the life cost for leap slamming or something like that, you're not even going to feel it. So this is a good moment when you want to allocate blood magic, and then finally get these nodes over here. And that's pretty much how the tree should look like in the beginning of the game, throughout the campaign and early maps before you swap to Giant's Blood. And for other versions after Giant's Blood and all that stuff, of course, all of that is going to be in the Mobalytics in my guide, right? When it comes to itemization, I'm going to go over that really quickly during campaign. I do believe that since we are using this, I'm gonna literally mention ascendancy. This was my first point. I think is by far the best. And then I took, I believe, not maximum fire resistance. I think I definitely took molten symbol and tantalum alloy. This will completely, like, your second, you're going to finish your ultimatum in Act 3 for 4 ascendancy points. This and this, the combination with this, is going to make you so tanky. Because this is unheard of that during campaign you have 75% resistances. And with this 75% from your armor and this node, you're pretty much going to be res capped. Maybe your cold lightning will not be capped, but they probably will. They probably will because you're gonna have resistance somewhere else, right? So with this, you're just done. You don't even need to worry, right? So that's crazy. And on top of that, you have mini cloak of flames. On top of that, on top of being rest capped, you're gonna have mini cloak of flames. At this point, you're literally going to get, like, I don't know, 15, 20 chaos resistance in one of the gear pieces, and you don't need to worry about dying in a campaign. The campaign is going to be smooth sailing, right? So this is amazing. Number 5 and 6 ascendancy points will be these two. And at this point, you want to start thinking about increasing your maximum fire resistance. That's why you want to get this at this point. You don't need to get these points before you get this. That's not mandatory. After you get this, 100%. Because we want to get to 90 always as quickly as possible, right? And after that, your final ascendancy trial is going to be life and strength. This is a big boost. So try to do it as quickly as possible. Now I think from the patch yesterday, they changed it so that you get like a 10 level trial like earlier or something like that. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the trial is going to be now even easier. But that being said, when you swap to two-handed weapons, or even before that, like Trial Master at the lowest level possible, which was when I was doing it, was level 75, had like million HP. Like he literally died in 2 perfect strikes, and I was still using one-handers back then. So I think that Trial of the Ultimatum is pretty easy, and I think you should do it. I think it's probably easier for warriors than Trial of Sakema because you don't need to worry about stupid traps. So that's what I would do. As when it comes to equipment during campaign, it's very simple. We already established that we want to be getting fire resistance because fire resistance like double dips basically. You get cold and lightning at the same time, and on top of that, you get the more fire resistance, you get more maximum fire resistance from unnatural resilience. So fire resistance is great. Other than that, you want to be getting armor whatever you can. It's that simple. Because during campaign, most monsters will be killing you from physical damage. The elemental starts being a problem, like a little bit into further, like a little bit further into axe, but physical damage is just going to be a problem, right? So the more armor you're going to get, that's why we're investing into these points in the beginning, and also later on I invest way more into armor because with this amount of armor and the mini cloak of flames, the armor just feels fantastic. You just don't take physical damage really. The only time I'm close to dying is at this point is like when I have a minus max or penetration mods in the map, which basically means that my entire ascendancy is gone, right? Because these modifiers are just overpowered. But if I don't run these overpowered modifiers, then it's you don't die as this character. You really don't. So yeah, that's it when it comes to campaign. It took me honestly longer than I thought it's going to take because usually I just talk about campaign for 2-3 minutes, but here it is. Usually pretty much what you're supposed to do in the campaign to make things smooth, and it should be fine. Now, when it comes to our current version of the build, let's start with skill gems. Mage Strike, of course, empty. Perfect Strike, I think, is the best warrior skill in the game, period. It's 5,000 times better than the Hammer of the Gods. Hammer of the Gods, in my opinion, doesn't even compare. Hammer of the Gods scale really bad with levels now because they changed it. They nerfed it really hard. So at this point, you can check online, but at this point, at level 34, I have Perfect Strike that hits for 2,600% of my attack damage. I am pretty sure that at level 34, Hammer of the Gods does not hit that hard. Or it's similar. But Hammer of the Gods you can use sometimes. Perfect Strike, I have, this is basically one Hammer of the Gods, two Hammer of the Gods, three hammers, four hammers. It's like I'm spamming one hammer every second. So why would you ever want to use Hammer of the Gods if you're playing Avatar of Fire, if you're converting to fire? The answer is there is no reason. So first of all, window of opportunity. I'm pretty much going to put these gems in the appropriate, like, it's going to be sequence of importance. The most important ones first. So window of opportunity is the best support for perfect strike. It makes it a little bit harder to time the perfect strike window. But honestly, once getting used to it, I never had problems with it. I know that some people do, but it's just a matter of getting used to it. The skill is too powerful not to use it, in my opinion. So you just have to do it. It is what it is. But you do 35% more damage because of this support. Basically with no downside, because I can't really see this shorter perfect timing window. I can't even see it, to be honest. Once you get used to it, you can't even see it. But 35% more damage basically for free, insane support. After that we have Conk Effect. The less area of effect doesn't matter, especially when they after they made Perfect Strike a little bit better this patch, in a way that when you are on top of the boss, it will not automatically, like, sometimes, like, shoot the Perfect Strike somewhere else, right? Which was annoying. And they fixed that bug. If you're on top of the boss, if you're facing the right direction, you're always gonna hit. I don't think I had. Maybe I had like once or twice a situation where my perfect strike went somewhere else, but it's very rare at this point. And perfect strike actually feels better to use. So consecrated effect for 30% more area damage, and the less area of effect is basically inconsequential. It doesn't matter for perfect strike. Then we want Primal Armament. I think that's self-explanatory. More damage, more elemental weapon damage. This support is good even before you swap to Avatar of Fire, because it's still going to give you 80% of that value, so 20% more weapon elemental damage. It's going to be very nice. Then close combat, 25% more attack damage to enemies that are close to you. Keep in mind that you actually don't want to be. Let's just say that this is the boss, right? You probably don't want to be sitting like far away from the boss, because at this point you might be getting a little bit less. You would still hit, right? You would still hit. You would probably still hit if you were here. But at this point, you're going to be getting probably a little bit less than 25% more damage. It's not going to be a big difference, but you want to get like probably a little bit closer. Let's just say that this is a boss. You want to be standing here, and now you're 100% sure that a full 25% more damage bonus is going to apply. At the end, Fire Infusion, 25 damage as extra fire. We don't care about that less cold and lightning, because everything is converted to fire anyway. So this is basically another 25% more damage, and that's all there is to it. And that's Perfect Strike. We want to put as much damage in there as possible. One of the reasons why this is better than Hammer of the Gods, also, that I didn't mention, is Perfect Strike has really, really, really good supports. It has really good supports. It's like 35, 30, 25, 25, 25, right? I don't know if Hammer of the Gods, I know that also has some good support, but I think that, it's really hard to beat this. So now when it comes to Leap Slam. Leap Slam is very simple. Magnified effect, we want to increase our area of effect as much as possible. 30% is huge. Then 35, once again, 35% more area of effect, even better. The less accuracy rating against enemies within 2 meters is completely irrelevant, because we use Resolute technique. I think very useful for maze builds, because you're not going to be critting very often. It's hard to invest into crit on a build like this, especially when you focus on other stats. So your hits can be evaded. Is absolutely fantastic thing to have, because there is some map modifiers also that make enemies more like it's going to be easier for enemies to evade hits and stuff like that. So with this, we never care. We always hit, period. So Reach and Magnified Effect is a combo that will give you absolutely stupid area, as you can see. This is not even the area that I have, because when I stun enemies, which is all the time, I get 30% increased area of effect, I believe, from shockwaves. And there is possibility that there is even more somewhere else that I forgot about. So you saw during the showcase the area is really good, and if you really wanted to, you can get rid of something and invest into even more. Like for example, here I have area nodes that I didn't allocate yet. I'm pretty sure that this is it. I don't think there's anything else, but maybe I'm missing something, right? But yeah. Next, martial tempo. I think this is pretty good to use, depending on how much attack speed you have on your build. There are many ways to solve attack speed. One of the ways to solve attack speed is, as I mentioned before, use greater runes of alacrity, which I think is great because that at the same time will increase your speed. This is just basically this skill speed reads as 32% attack speed, cast speed, warcry speed, and similar stats, which means that your perfect strikes will be much faster. This will be faster. Solar orb will be faster. It's just nice quality of life to have all of that stuff. Your character just feels faster overall. And I think that these runes are. I know that you're potentially sacrificing very decent amount of damage if you're doing that, but I think it's worth it. I think it's just worth it. The character just feels so much more smooth. It's 32 for 4 sockets. That's so much. 32. You know how many passive points would you have to invest to get 32? And the best part, as I mentioned before, it's all speeds. The Warcry speed, cast speed for Solar Orb, for flammability if you want to use as well. It just feels good. It feels good to use that. So these two runes with a combination of martial tempo, and I never at this point, to me this feels good enough that I don't really care anymore, right? I don't really care anymore, and I just play like this, and it feels good. I don't worry about attack speed at all. I don't have attack speed here. I don't have attack speed here. I don't even have attack speed on my gloves. That is just enough, and that is a very good way to fix your attack speed, in my opinion. So I forgot to mention momentum. One of the reasons why Leap Slam hits so freaking hard, even though I have, I believe, one damage gem in Leap Slam and it hits so hard, is momentum. Momentum gives you 40% more damage if you moved at least 2 meters during the single use of a skill. Guess what? Guess what 2 meters is? Like I jumped almost, like I'm jumping right now almost on top of myself, and it still works. Because when it starts working, you see this green, like, I don't know, aura around me. And this is when you get the 40% damage boost, right? So with this area of effect, what this gem reads as, this support reads as, you basically get 40% more damage on Leap Slam, period. So that's crazy, right? And as you can see, the level 34 Leap Slam is going to hit for 13 almost 100 of attack damage per hit. So this is like, you're literally going to hit as hard as, like, this is like AoE Hammer of the God. A little bit less than AoE Hammer of the Gods after nerfs. That's how hard this hits. So, you know, they just, I made videos before explaining how hard they buffed Leap Slam and why I'm using it. I'm not going to go over it right now, but this is why. This is why it's so strong. Last support, you have many options here, actually. I'm using Holy Descent because I reached the point where I feel like having more damage with Leap Slam just doesn't give me anything. The rare monsters die in 1 hit, sometimes 2 hits anyway. So it's just like, if I put something for damage here, I'll be like, whatever, right? One thing I didn't mention is that while mapping, if you're like still lower budget and you don't have great weapons, you can use. We use on the passive tree, we use Vocal Empowerment for Warcry's Empower additional attack. And with our Infernal Cry, we also use this 30% chance to not lower empowerment count. What that basically means is that you have 2, and there is a very good chance that after using this Warcry, it's going to be like 3, sometimes even 4, right? Right now we got lucky this time, so it didn't work a single time. But generally speaking, if you're lower budget, you can try to use your Infernal Cry a little bit more often. With Infernal Cry, with Leap Slam being buffed by Infernal Cry, it gets absolutely gargantuan amount of damage. We got insanely unlucky there because 8 times in a row I didn't roll that 30%. That basically doesn't happen. I want to see one more time. 10 times in a row. Wow, that's crazy. That being said, it's not even important. Even without that, you just pop Warcry, You also get more rage, by the way, from enemies nearby, and you just boom, boom, and everything is dead. I'm kind of curious, how is this possible that I'm getting this unlucky, by the way, at this point? I think it's like 14 times in a row we rolled. I'm curious now. I'm sorry. No, I mean I'm not gonna waste my time. But I think 16 times in a row we didn't roll this 30% at this point, which is insane. Like just one more time. What's going on actually? Anyway, this last support gem, very good to use something like the moment you start getting very high levels, Leap Slime is going to start costing a lot of mana, which is life because we use blood magic. Right now, for me, it's almost 700 life. So this is where our regeneration from the Ascendancy and from this chest and from Holy Descent comes from. Because with all that regeneration, like the cost of the Leap Slam, I actually can't see it myself. It's just too little, right? So Holy Descent, I think, is a decent support. You can use many things here. You can use what I was doing for a long time. I was just doing Fire Infusion because, as you can see, it has no mana cost multiplier. So your mana cost doesn't even go up. So that's pretty convenient. As you can see, for the life cost, it's still not that bad. It's totally doable, right? And for bosses, I would just swap over here, right? And that's how I would play. But you can put Inspiration here for less cost. Holy Descent, like, you know, really this is like your preference at this point. This skill hits so hard at this point that you don't even need the last support being damaged, right? Then we have Infernal Cry, skill that is, I think, probably overpowered a little bit. Empowered attacks gain 35% of damage as fire damage per 5 power of enemies in the range up to 150. That is insane into bosses. Like, this just gives you so much damage. For you that don't know, the bosses against bosses, like, you know, the bosses and pinnacle bosses and like unique monsters, you always get maximum power, 20 power, which means that you're gonna get always 150% damage as fire damage bonus for 2 attacks and sometimes more. I still don't understand. That is oh, finally, that was the first time it didn't consume this stack. That was an insanely unlucky streak, but whatever. This is just insane. Someone asked me what is like the first skill that you should put quality into. This is easily, because quality gives you additional 10% per 5 power. So this is easily the most important skill that you should put your gem cutter prisms into first. And we support that, very simple, with Premeditation, 15% more damage for empowered attacks, very simple. Raging Cry, I think, is very good because it gives you additional rage. If you're fighting a pinnacle boss or something like that at the start of the fight, you're going to War Cry and your rage is going to go up very quickly, very rapidly. Against pinnacle bosses, it's going to be 16 rage. Against unique enemies, not pinnacle bosses. Unique enemies, so rogue exiles, bosses, pinnacle bosses, you're going to get 16 rage when you're next to them by using War Cry, so very nice. This is absolutely insane. Consume 10 rage to get additional 30% more damage to empowered attacks. This is where our damage starts scaling really stupidly, right? And at the end, Tireless. On a 6th link, on the last link, if you wanted to put in there, I'm actually not sure. I would have to think about. I think these are totally fine if you just use Greater Jewel Orb on this, and you can just. I don't think there's like anything like super great after that anymore. So. And Solar Orb, very important in my opinion, because Solar Orb, many people ask me why not Totem. And the reason is because Solar Orb cannot die. Totems will die, Solar Orb will just stay there on top of the pinnacle boss or wherever you're fighting, and it will keep on giving you rage, right? And what you want to support that with is Font of Rage and Font of Blood. This means that every time you're next to your Solar Orb, and it lasts for a long time. Another thing you could put is, for example, increased duration from persistence. You could absolutely slap it in there. But what it gives you is rage generation and life regeneration when you are next to the orb. That is absolutely... The range is actually pretty decent. Here I'm still getting the bonus stacks, right? So the range is very decent. It's absolutely fantastic. And it casts pretty fast. It costs basically no mana. Many people ask me why I'm using this, because the intelligence requirement is ridiculous. It's very simple. Just buy the lowest level possible, level 5. Level 5 is going to require 34 intelligence. That's it. So 34 intelligence is, I think you're gonna agree, is not very steep cost for something like that. So then we have Berserk, very important in my opinion. The maximum life per rage per second, while not losing rage, detrimental effect is not really a big problem because our build has very high regeneration overall. So increased effect of rage means that instead of 30 rage, giving us 30% attack speed, 30% more damage, it gives us about 50% more damage. A little bit less than that. Like, it's going to be like 47, but massive amount, right? So Berserk, I think, the best. Then Herald of Ash. It's still a shame that there's nothing pretty much you can support the skill with. Nothing has changed, but at least it got buffed really hard when it comes to numbers, to the point where I started using it. Also, part of the reason why I started using it is because there's nothing else. So like, I literally try to figure out something that I would love to use, like a persistent buff that doesn't require you to have insane amount of dexterity or intelligence. I couldn't find anything. I just couldn't. So instead, I just decided to slap Herald of Ash, and it's going to decrease your clear speed a little bit. It's not a bad thing to have, so it's not horrible. When it comes to last skill gem that I didn't talk about, is you have one more option. If you want, this is optional. You can use flammability. Once again, just like the solar orb, the lowest level flammability, which is going to be level 7. It's going to require 52 intelligence, which I think is still not that bad. For example, like if you had like intelligence here instead of dexterity on this ring, then that would solve the problem, right? But what flammability does is that it will reduce the fire resistance of bosses. Generally speaking, use it only against bosses, otherwise it's just not worth it. And if you want to implement that into your build, you absolutely can, to just increase the damage that you'll be doing against bosses if you don't penetrate them to 0 already with your fire penetration. I did test it literally before recording this video against Zesht 4, and like against Zesht without this flammability, I was doing like 3 something million damage. With flammability, I was doing 3.5, which means that basically even without this, I was just like almost penetrating him to 0. The flammability only added a little bit of damage. This could be useful, for example, in the maps where they have where bosses have like additional elemental resistances, monsters. But generally speaking, in my opinion, I mean, you can use it if you decide to use it. Like, you can, for example, drop some of the penetration from your jewels and have different jewels. So that's definitely an option, I guess, right? You can just like mix and match and like do different combinations. Personally, I decided not to use it and not to put in a build guide at all. But I'm going to talk about it really shortly, because this is an option that you might want to use, because it doesn't really require that much intelligence, right? It's just one extra button to press. And you can support this with more skill, effect, duration, persistence, and heightened curse. Maybe there's something else, but yeah, it's just not a big deal. I don't think a curse set like anything amazing at this point. There is a support gem here that gives you the curses will activate faster, so 30% faster. So it's going to be like a 1 second activation delay instead of 1.5. So you can use that, but this is optional. I don't use it myself because I have a lot of penetration. People that don't use jewels like these, that give them penetration, can use that instead. And that's it when it comes to skill gems. We're going to go over passive tree real fast. So I'm going to talk about Ascendancy real fast. Cold Stoker, I'm pretty much explained how strong Forge and Flame and Cold Stoker are. It frees a lot of suffixes on your gear. It makes the gear potentially much less expensive, because the only resistances that you care about really is fire and chaos. You want to cap your chaos, and you want to get as much fire on every single piece of equipment as possible, right? So yeah, this is like a really good modifier for PoE 2. Even in PoE 1 is pretty nice to have and pretty useful. And PoE 2 is even better, because PoE 2 has like much, generally speaking, less power, right? Then we have Forge and Flame. Modifiers to maximum fire resistance also grant maximum cold and lightning. This is absolutely insane. gives you it's pretty comfortable, pretty easy to get to 90 all res with this. And the difference between 75 all res and 90 all res is 2.5 times more effective HP. So compared to your everyday Amazon that you see in a clip or something that has 75% resistances, I have like 11,000 life compared to her, right? Over 11,000 because I have 90 always, and on top of that, of course, I have way more life. So this is as long as you don't run modifiers that reduce your maximum resistances, you're gonna be so tanky with this. And then Smith Masterwork, we select what I think the best nodes, but the great thing about this is you can just mix and match, right? So body armor grants 20% strength, and maximum life is absolutely amazing. It's very hard to get maximum life in the game right now, so this is a great modifier in my opinion. 20% strength also will give you a decent amount of life and will make the getting strength to wear your weapons much easier. So this is great. And then you have Molten Symbol, absolutely fantastic because it will give you, it's just like a mini Cloak of Flame notable, right? So like for one notable, this is crazy good because it pairs really nice with solid amount of armor, right? It's like the smaller the hit is, the better the armor works. So the fact that 25% of the damage is going to be taken as fire instead of physical means that you only have to mitigate 75% of incoming physical damage from hits, which means that this 50,000 armor against these smaller hits actually work pretty damn well at this point, to the point where even the pinnacle bosses don't do damage to me, really. So if you don't believe that, check out my stream, because I'm doing pinnacle bosses daily. And then last modifier, honestly this is optional. I really like this regeneration. It works even better into bosses, and it feels nice because like my Elite Slam cost is pretty high at this point, so I don't need to worry about the cost whatsoever. But what interesting is there? This one I wouldn't recommend. This one I wouldn't recommend, really. I don't think it's worth it. We don't get stunned anyway. We're gonna get to it soon. Why? This one is okay, but honestly, I don't think I would take that still. Maximum fire resistance before you get your maximum fire resistance gear and stuff like that can be used 100%. Unaffected by Ignite is just a joke. 75 res is pretty good, especially during campaign, as I mentioned before. These make absolutely no sense. I don't know why they're even here. Why would you take this if you can get this? Did anyone that even designed this class thought that someone is not going to take this node? Probably not. So anyway, let's jump into a passive tree. First, I'm going to talk about the overall how the tree should look like, and then I'm going to talk about the weapon sets. The passive tree, very simple. Right off the bat, I'm going to say that if you have something that requires a little bit more stats, obviously change your strength nodes to intelligence or dexterity, whatever you need. So we start here, getting this armor. You know, I'm getting decent amount of armor because it really helps against physical damage mitigation. So like the people keep on saying that armor is garbage, don't listen to them, because if you build your character properly, armor and physical damage mitigation is actually really good. So don't worry about that. Story Metal, Brutal, then the Smash for both weapon sets for a little bit more damage on Leap Slam. This is really good. We're going this way. We're getting this big cluster. Polished Iron is the reason why we're not getting stunned at all. The only time I'm going to get stunned is when modifiers have, when the map modifier is that the monsters have more stun buildup, like, you know, on hit or something like that, right? Other than that, even bosses don't stun me, because this gives you 50% of your armor on equipped items is going to be treated as stun threshold, which means that all this armor, all of this combined, divided by 2, and this is how much extra flat stun threshold you get. So if you're building a lot of armor, this is a fantastic node, and it will help you against stuns tremendously, right? Then we're going this way. This is pretty useful because the physical hits are going to be mitigated much better with this notable, and also 15 strength, very nice. So against crits, we basically have 30,000 armor. That's what it means. Then Beef, fans' favorite, Beef. We're going here. These 4 first nodes are from both weapon sets. And then for the area, I selected these 2, and for the damage, I selected these 2. I think it was pretty smart. And then going this way, Jules, I'm going to talk about later. Percent stun threshold with life, very nice. Resolute technique. All of this is going to be weapon set number 1 for area. I'm going this way. Empowered attacks deal increased damage, and the vocal empowerment. I think this is very strong and very important. We're going this way. String of Fire. This is okay to have. These nodes are a little bit stronger, these armor nodes, than the regular ones, so we can take this. Going this way, strength, strength, strength. We don't care about reduced mana and more damage per strength. At the end of the day, this is going to be 42% increased strength for me, so pretty decent, I guess. Giant's Blood, of course, going here. Unnatural resilience, self-explanatory. This way, a little bit fire penetration. This way, leather-bound gauntlets. This is important because +1 evasion per 1 armor on equipped gloves. So you might think, oh, you're not getting any evasion at all, right? You don't need that. Here's the thing. This basically means that I have 738 evasion and armor on my gloves, flat. And then you just select this, Iron Reflexes, and this converts that evasion to armor. So with these 4 points, I'm not only getting percent armor, but I'm also getting additional 738 flat armor. That is really powerful. This is probably like the hardest, one of the strongest combinations if you want to get very high amount of armor, because it's going to give you a lot. This is a 1500 armor gloves basically with this. So this is really a lot. This is like as much as you're gonna get on like a decent chest piece, right? So very nice combo. You should definitely use it. Area here, Socket Jewel is pretty close, so I decided to go for it. I think, jewels are still good. They nerfed the amount of sockets you can get on the tree, generally speaking, but every time you're close to a jewel socket, you should go for it. And then Polymathy for, and these all attribute nodes to make the attribute requirements and stuff like that, and, give us more strength. Then we're going this way, Avatar of Fire, Anointed Titanic, Blood Magic, and at this point, this is also for weapon sets. And weapon sets number 1, my weapon set number 1 is going to be for area. So like every area that I can get I'm just getting. So area here, area here. +2 rage on melee hit is actually pretty useful, because this way it's very easy to generate rage while leap slapping throughout the map. So that's a very cheap and good way to get way more damage. So I recommend these two. Area with attack damage. You're going to see like this is the theme at this point pretty much. More area here with this 125 attack damage area damage node, because for 1 point it's super worth it. More area. And more area over here as well. That's basically how it goes. And for weapon set number 2, this is when I swap my weapons to set number 2 against pinnacle bosses. This burning strikes physical as fire with burning nodes over here. Attack speed reduced with huge amount of damage over here. Attack speed reduced with huge amount of damage over here. Once again, if you're scared about this reduced attack speed, here's the reason why we don't care about that much. Is we already have a lot of increased attack speed from runes. This is why it's so good. Such a good combination. Then this over here, melee damage. You're gonna see once again that everything is basically to increase your single target damage. We don't care about weapon set 2 number. We don't care about area on weapon set number 2 at all. And I'm going to say that one more time. The question that I don't know why I've seen dozens of times, if not 100 or something, is people were confused. You're not using 2 weapon sets. How can I use a weapon set number 2?
Flame of the Forge.
Yeah, that's it. It's your set weapon set number 2 it's working right now. As you can see, my damage went up to 35,000 perfect strike from 25,000. So that's like 40% more damage. That is way more than 40% more damage, because this does not include nodes like these that are not calculated. It doesn't include this 70% increased damage. It doesn't include this another 30%. It doesn't include this another 28%, and it just goes on and on, right? So it's actually way more than 40%. It's probably like about 60-70% more damage just because you do this, right? Of course, now you can, if you want to, use 2 weapon sets, right? If you're rich enough, I am not, but if you have enough money to buy 4 good weapons, then you can do that and never swap at all. And you're just going to do at this point. You have Perfect Strike over here. Can you see it? I'll have to move my camera a little bit. And here you have used with weapon set number 1 and number 2. I know you can't see, but you just select used with weapon set number 2, and every time you're going to use Perfect Strike, if you have 4 weapons, it's going to be working with weapon set number 2. That's all there is to it, right? It's that simple. So if this is something that you want to do, you can do it absolutely. Now, we're going to talk about, it's getting quite long. We're going to talk about weapons. Now, when it comes to weapons, the most important stats by far, and this was another super popular question, is +2 level of all melee skills. Preferably, you should get at least +5, +6, because this is giving us like this absurd amount of damage from the gem level scaling. The other important one is increased elemental damage with attacks, also preferably 100 or above, because it works on both weapons. So on both weapons, having something like that is a 200% increased damage on every single skill that you use. That is huge. And then at this point, you want to be getting some flat damage source. It doesn't really matter which one. The physical is obviously the best because you can get the highest amount of physical. But if you're going to have like a lot of flat fire or cold or lightning, fire is the best. But if you're going to get some other sources, it's not going to be a bad thing. It's just keep in mind that the level to all melee skills and WED, so elemental damage with attacks, are the most important stats, right? You want to focus on these first, even if your weapon has no damage at all increased, flat, you can mitigate that in rings. Your rings can have some damage, and you're going to get covered here, right? So these are the most important stats. When it comes to chest, I think that the white chest with first of all, Ornate Plate, that gives you regeneration, I think is the best base. And if you could get one with corruption, with chaos resistance, that would be fantastic. This is a great place to get some chaos resistance. I think this corruption, this 70% chaos resistance corruption, is better than a third socket, because that is a lot. And this rolls from 13 to 19, so you can get 19 chaos res there. So I think this is really good. Helmet, you want to get as much armor as possible, and then fill your get as much armor as possible, get as much life as possible, and then fill up your resistances basically. I know this helmet is not perfect. The chaos resistance is kind of low. The cold and lightning are suboptimal because it would be better to just have single fire. And of course it has no strength and the life is kind of low, but it has a lot of armor. And for me, this helmet, I bought it like a week ago, a long time ago, and it works for me just fine. So that's what I use. But these are the stats that you want the most. On gloves, these are very, very good gloves, and I do not expect everyone to get something like this. But even without that +2 to all melee skills, this is pretty much what you're looking for. Life, strength, and as much armor as possible, because as I mentioned before, the armor when it comes to gloves double dips. So if you have 500 armor on your gloves, it's going to turn into 1000. If you have 750, it's going to turn into 1.5 thousand. So you're going to get higher value from high armor on your gloves, right? This is one of the reasons why I'm using actually Iron Rune here for increased armor instead of something else. For example, life. Boots, pretty simple, very similar to helmet. The only exception is that you probably want to get some movement speed. Now, movement speed for this build is not the most crucial thing because you're leap slamming all the time. That being said, it's never a bad thing to have some movement speed. You can't argue with that, right? These boots for this part of the league, we're like almost 2 weeks into the league, they're not good, let's be honest. I could upgrade them quite a bit. More life, more strength, more armor. I could get something better. This cold resistance for me is completely useless. I don't need that technically. So, yeah. This is what I use. This is what you're supposed to have. Infernal Clasp. Now, of course, you don't need that corruption. What you can buy for cheap is just +5 to maximum fire resistance. But what you could do is get something like this. I only bought that for 3 divines, so it wasn't that expensive. So yeah, getting like a different combination of like +3 +3 or +2 +4, so that you get more than +5 from the default belt without corruption. You can just play around. Is the most important thing is that you get Inferno class, because this belt is so good for this build. So this is what I would recommend. Another option that you can do, I got really lucky yesterday, and I corrupted this build that I wanted to sell for like 10 or 20 exalts, and I corrupted it and get +3 to maximum fire resistance. This is also something you can do. If you're getting a lot of fire resistance from different sources, different places, then you can just get this something like that with like huge amount of life, strength, or something else, and get +3 from the corruption, and that's going to be an option also. Like that's going to be a decent replacement. Next up, Amulet Zov's Blood. I think that Zov's Blood is just amazing, and I don't think that like an average player should even think about replacing this. One thing I'm going to say is that the replacement would be something like +3 to skills, life, percent life, strength, something like that, right? So like a very expensive amulet. So honestly, just I wouldn't even think about replacing Zov's Blood. Zov's Blood is good. But you can have something even stronger and have even more damage, but self-splat is totally fine. When it comes to helmets, one thing I didn't mention is that you can vastly increase your damage if you're gonna use the helmet that I found yesterday, a Deepest Tower. What Deepest Tower do is enemies in your presence count as being on low life. What that means is that with this you can utilize some very powerful mechanics, like for example execute, which read as 50% more damage with hits against enemies that are on low life, which means that you're always going to have 50% more, and that's going to be a 50% more damage support gem. On top of that, you can if you wanted to use Deepest Tower, you could change your weapons to number 2 for single target and invest into these points over here and these points over here. These give you stupid amounts of damage, because like this 30% increased damage per small node, right? Here we have another 30, 30, and 120. And overall, if you combine the execute support with these nodes on the tree, that is going to be, from my math, like I think it's going to be about 40 to 50% more damage compared to what you're normally doing. And if you want to reach the point where you want to push Will Smith to like absolute stupid levels, then this is going to be mandatory, because you're going to need let's just say that you're doing like a personal challenge and you want to reach 10 million damage perfect strikes. Like most likely using flammability and using this helmet is going to be mandatory in order to do that, right? So like with better weapons and this and so on, like you can probably reach like 10 million perfect strikes with this build, while being insanely tanky. So something to mention. The probably one of the most important slots here is rings. Rings, generally speaking, I use them to get as much life, strength, then fire resistance, whatever I can get it, and high flat damage. High flat damage is important, guys, because if your weapons are weak and they don't have high flat damage, they do have melee skills and increased elemental damage with attacks, but they don't have flat damage, then the rings is going to be a slot where you're going to mitigate that, and the rings will just carry your flat damage department. That's all there is to it. So the higher the flat fire damage is, the better the ring it is for this build, basically, is what I'm trying to say, right? Flat fire is the best, because flat fire does not get converted, like nothing happens. You just get 100% of your flat fire that you see here. You get this amount of damage on both of your weapons, basically. So flat fire is very good. Also, you can get flat fire on paper, on gloves as well, a decent amount, but then you have to sacrifice something like life or something like that, right? But yeah, these are the rings pretty much. And I think this is, for the most part, going to be it. We managed to hit 1 hour, so it's shorter than some of the build guides I did, but yeah, that's pretty much going to be it. Thank you very much for watching, guys. Thank you very much for support, because the Will Smith, generally speaking, the Will Smith videos had they were very popular. So it seems like also looking at how much the prices for the items for this build increased. I'm assuming that it was people are pretty happy playing with it, so I'm really happy to hear that. I'm going to upload, of course, in the description, the POB from this character right now, the POB, the newest character. But I don't think there were many changes since last time. But yeah, the POB is going to be there. Um, Everything is going to be there. The the mobilytics. I just keep on saying that all the time. The mobilytics will be also updated, so everything is going to be there. And also, after uploading this video, I'm going to stream. So if you want to join the stream to ask more questions, if you have any questions, I'm going to answer all of them. And also, feel free to ask questions down in the comments, as always, because I read every single comment. So thank you very much, and see you next time. Bye bye.